Persephone hopefully will give us the sign. He'll go in the middle of the road and start playing Hava Nagila. And we are all going to surround him.
Don't allow terrorists in the UK! Stand with Israel! Fight the terrorists! They're not human beings!
Come on, fella, come on. As best as possible.
Everybody sit down. Can you all hear me? Off our street! Terrorists! 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 Off our street! Terrorists!
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kay Wilson.
Things first. מודעני לפניך. מלך חי וקיים שהחסרת בי נשמתי וחמלה. רבה אמונתך. 4 days ago, an inferno ravished a building in this city, the city where I was born, and scores of men, women and children tragically lost their lives. London is smouldering with grief and shock. There's another fire burning that, if left unattended to, threatens to devour everything in its path. Islamic Jihad, of which I am a survivor. 6.5 years ago, 2 Palestinian terrorists held my American Christian friend and I hostage for half an hour on the Israel National Trail. Then they gagged and bound us and forced us to our knees. One butchered Christine to death before my eyes, while the other simultaneously hacked at me with his machete. Their cleavers chopped away her future generations, and ripped apart her family's heart. Their knives decimated the person I once was. It's with deep gratitude that I recall the Israeli Muslim surgeon who stitched up my diaphragm, drained my lungs from blood, stapled my 13 machete lacerations, and tended to my over 30 broken bones. By saving my life, this dear Muslim doctor enabled me to get back to work and become an educator for the wonderful organization Stand With Us, who not only educate people about Israel, but are enabling, lobbying the stopping of the funding of terrorism. It is a hateful lie and a racist slur to say that all Muslims are terrorists. However, it is deluded, disingenuous, and dangerous to claim that terrorism has absolutely nothing to do with Islam. Islamic terrorism rages against our communities, incinerates families, chars a nation, and irreparably blackens our world. It is bent on consuming London, Manchester, Paris, Madrid, Stockholm, Berlin, Brussels, St. Petersburg, Istanbul, Mosul, Aden, Aleppo, Cairo, Sinjar, Erbil, and Jerusalem. The smoke alarm alerting the British to the terror from within was set off first in 2003 when two British Muslims, born and bred here, walked into a bar in Tel Aviv and blew it up. Despite the fact that this was carried out by well-to-do British men, until today, people in positions of public influence, including Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the political Labour Party, and Baroness Lady Tongue, and the former Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, disperse their vile anti-Semitism by claiming that terrorism perpetrated against Israelis is solely the consequence of Palestinian frustrations. Well, I am frustrated. I am frustrated because Islamic terrorism has wrecked my life and left me both physically and psychologically disabled. But although I'm frustrated, I haven't taken out my frustrations by shooting Muslims, blowing up Muslims, mowing down Muslims, or hacking Muslims to death. Frustrated? Israel is frustrated by the mainstream British media who continue to either ignore terrorism carried out against Israelis or cover it up, excuse it, rationalize it, justify it, and in doing so invoke sympathy for the murderers and enmity towards the victims. Only 2 days ago, a 23-year-old Jewish Israeli woman was brutally murdered in Jerusalem, an attack which ISIS also claimed responsibility for. But nevertheless, the BBC saw it fit to headline, 3 Palestinians killed after deadly stabbing in Jerusalem.
Shame. Shame on the BBC. Shame.
The likes of these morally barren journalists remain dangerously and willfully ignorant of the winds of change that are fanning the flames of jihad spreading from the Middle East. The terrorism against Israel is the same terrorism that wants to burn London and Manchester. It is a global jihad that boasts it will destroy Western civilization. But instead of rushing to put out this fire of terrorism, the British public are choked by the fumes of fear from their own establishment, who have issued the Public Order Act, in which Section 5 deems someone guilty of causing harassment, alarm or distress if they, and I quote, if they display any writing, sign or other visible representation which is threatening or abusive with the hearing or sight of a person likely to be caused harassment, alarm or distress thereby. Personally, I find the blowing up of children at a Manchester pop concert and the slitting of a woman's throat as she sipped her English tea a tad more offensive and distressing than a Lancashire Christian who put Bible verses on a TV screen in his cafe, or a Sunderland merchant who hung a sign above his shop that read "Stop Funding Terrorism." Both these people continue to be harassed by the British police with threats of arrest if they don't take these things down. Because according to this Orwellian Public Order Act Section 5, a sign that reads "Stop Funding Terrorism" and a screen displaying Bible verse are now an offence.
Shame!
If the authorities spent more time and public resources dealing with the blatant treason of those in this society who support and promote terrorism instead of harassing those who protest against it, this country would be a safer place. Offended? Offended? We are offended because the appropriation of this sinister Public Order Act is selective. It doesn't apply to those now offensively waving Hizbullah flags, an organisation that the British government itself has designated as a terror group. We are offended by this march, which is nothing but a propaganda tool of the Islamic Republic of Iran, a despotic regime that continues to threaten Israel, a sovereign nation, and my home and my people with nuclear annihilation. We are offended by those who march in support of these Iranian tyrants, those who murder gays, poets, apostates and free thinkers, and in marching in London offend members of the British public, who are also gays, poets, apostates and free thinkers. We are offended. Yes, we are offended at these marchers who abuse free speech and spew hate against Jews, vilify Zionists, demonize Israel, and billow out demands for the implementation on British soil of the uncivilized, anti-democratic, and frankly barbaric Sharia law. We are offended that despite a petition signed by thousands stating their objections to the obscenity of this march, the Home Secretary, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police and the Mayor of London abdicated responsibility, blamed each other and enabled this march to go ahead. None of them have even expressed their moral outrage to this march, not even in a tweet, opting instead for the mumbo-jumbo of political correctness. They have only expressed their concerns. We are offended that the Home Secretary, the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police and the Mayor of London have capitulated to the demands of a radical and filthy and violent ideology and insulted the victims of the murdered on British streets. We are offended by those who bully, intimidate and gag our free speech by manipulatively claiming that any criticism of Islam, even associating it with the so-called extremism that murders people in this city, is Islamophobia. The very refusal to allow critique backfires and casts suspicion and hatred towards the honourable, noble and kind among the Muslim community. We are offended, and so we would do well to take Sir Winston Churchill's words to heart. A great man who with resolve and uncompromising conviction defeated the evil of Nazi and fascist regimes, the likes who will march very soon through this street today. Churchill said, "We will mete out to our enemy the measure, and more than the measure, than they have meted out to us. We will have no truce or parley with you, or the grisly gang who work your wicked will. You do your worst, and we do our best, and we who are offended we are also anxious. We are anxious for the corrosion of the democracy of this great country. And we are anxious for the guaranteed future safety of her Jewish and Christian and minority communities. So we who are anxious, let us take to heart the words of Israel's King David, words from the Bible, words of comfort and of truth. But by words, these very words, by me reading them out now, I stand in violation of Public Order Act Section 5, which warrants my arrest. But frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. A word for all you Londoners in these troubled times. Gam ki yelech, b'geit al-mavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Amen, and thank you.
Well, darling.
What amazing words from such an inspirational person. Let's hear it one more time for Kay.